That's 92a. We're going to start at the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Gag Gadol Samach L'Katan. You have two roofs. It's shaped like a T. So you have a Gag Gadol, that's the top, and it's next to a katan, that's the leg of the T. Okay? So we say here, that Hagadol Moter v'Katan Asa. The large one can be used, but the small one can't be used. So what that means is that the people that live in the large one can go up onto their roof. And the fact that there's another house that didn't make an Eruv with them is right next to them doesn't affect the large roof. Why? Because they have walls on the sides. Because it's like a T, the top of the T, they're surrounded on four sides, really. There's an opening to the leg of the T, the second one. That's okay, that's just an opening, that's just the doorway, don't worry about it. But in the leg of the T, the Gad Katan, that's the one that's more narrow, it's Paretz B'Miloi, it's open entirely to the big one. So it doesn't have a fourth wall. We had this. Okay. Yeah. Now we're talking about taking kalim from the house onto the roof. So that way, we're not talking about, according to Reb Meir or whatever, the other shitas that said all the roofs are one. We're not getting into that now. We're talking about the real issue of taking from the house to the roof. You're allowed to take to the big one, but you can't take to the small one. Okay. So now, the next case. Chatza Gedola. Same case, same shape.
Rabbi, I don't understand. You said the small can't take to the big?
No.
But
you can't even take to the small. From the house to the small one, you can't take.
But let's say you were on the small one. Why isn't that the same when we once had a chutzir where the small then went out to the big? So from the small's perspective, the big one, the thing with the walls, we had the similar picture on land way back.
The problem is, that's exactly the case that you're referring to is the next case of the Mishnah.
Oh, okay.
Let's read the next case, but it's the same issue applies whether it's on the ground or on the roof. So if you have a large courtyard. Now, a courtyard means that there's houses in it, and they made an Eruv from the houses to the courtyard. Okay, so there's a Gedola, and it's Nefetz L'Ktana. The Gedola would be the top of the T, and the Ketana is the thinner one, narrower. So Gedola Materas, Ketana Surah. Everyone that's in the Gedola can carry from the houses into the courtyard. There's no problem. Why? Because they have four walls surrounding it. But everyone that's in the Ketana, it's Asura, because that's like the entrance to the large one, and there is no wall that's stopping the small one from getting into the large one. It's straight opening. It's considered like as if it's just the entranceway to the large one. And you didn't make an Eruv with the large one. You only made an Eruv with yourself. You only made an Eruv with your own people. The problem is that you're open to another courtyard, and you needed to incorporate them into your Eruv, and you didn't. The Gedola doesn't need to incorporate the Ketana because it has walls. Is it clear, Dr. Stein? Yeah? Okay. The Gemara is going to extend this a little bit. It's interesting. First, we start off, Lama Leila Misni Tarti. Why do we need two cases? The cases are exactly the same, right? It's the shape of a T, whether on the roof or on the ground. It's the same story. So, if you remember, we had a Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. If you say good asik means that the imaginary walls along the side of a house continue upward. So Rav said that you say that, but you don't say it if there's a roof that's covering the walls. Shmuel said you can even take the walls from underneath the roof and extend them upwards, even though there's a roof that's blocking. So.
If you just said that. If you can't have wall, it's covering it.
That's right. So Rab would only hold the outer walls can do that.
But isn't the roof always covering the wall?
The roof is always covering the inner walls. It's not always covering the outer walls. Our houses usually there's an overhang. But in those days, not necessarily was there an overhang. So the Rav, according to Rav, that says that you don't say good asik if there's a roof covering the inner walls. We're saying the roof similar to the courtyard. Just like by the courtyard, the walls are recognizable, visible. He's coming to tell me that you don't say good asik in the center. That's Rab's chiddush. According to Rab, the two cases of the Mishnah, the Gag is the chiddush because it wants to tell me, not like Shmuel. Don't think that there's a wall going up in between the two roofs that's coming up through the roof. No, it doesn't work like that. Shmuel says like this: Gag dami the chatzir. The roof is similar to the chatzir also. Ma chatzir the kadarsi barab, ma gag the kadarsi larabim. Shmuel says, yeah, usually you do say good asik. But just like by a courtyard, where everyone is trampling over the line, I don't say that there's any wall over there. I don't have any reason to say there's a wall. But when everyone's trampling over it and they're going through, I don't say that there's a wall. So too on the roof, I can't say good asik if everyone's walking straight over it. So it's called mechita nidresas, a wall that's being trampled on.
Imaginary wall that
Yeah, so I can't make an imaginary wall if it's clearly being violated. So which way is the problem? Katan aser. Katan is aser. So even Shmuel's going to hold that the small one is going to be aser because I don't say that there's a wall there. Why is the big one mutter? Well, that's because it's just a Pesach. But I don't say over here. I don't see over here good asik. So how did we do it before? How did Shmuel say before good asik? Wasn't there other cases where?
I don't think they would necessarily. I think it was an individual test, not a dropping.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what I would think.
Okay.
Yeah, he's right. That's the opposite.
It's because of the rabbin. Okay. Yosef Rabba v'Rab Zera Rabba bar Rav Chanan v'Yosef Abaya Gabayo v'Yosef Kamri. Okay, so we have Rabba, Rab Zera, Rabba bar Rav Chanan, and Abaya. Abaya is sitting there. Why don't they put Abaya together with them? Just say that they're all three. Well, Rabba and Rab Zera and Rabba bar Rav Chanan, I think, are a little bit older than Abaya. Abaya is going to ask a question. Each of them are going to attack Abaya. So Abaya is sort of like the outsider here. They're going to challenge him. So, the Kamri, they say the following. Shema mina mimasnisin, we can see from our Mishnah that the Yurei Gedola Biktana. The people that live in the large courtyard or on the large roof are also living in the smaller roof. In other words, they pull the smaller roof to them, and it's as if they're living there. Now, what we're saying here is even though they have the wall, the Gedola has the wall, so it's as if it's blocked off, but that smaller area is sort of like bottled to them, and anything that goes on in there, it's as if it's going on. The smaller area is the entrance way into the bigger one, and it's as if it's bottled to the bigger one, and anything that's going on in the smaller one is as if it's going on in the bigger one. However, but we don't say it the other way. We don't say that anything that's going on in the big one is as if it's going on in the smaller one. We'll see the nafkaminas over here. We're going to have a bunch of cases. Yeah, saying the same thing, but he's going to extend it to a whole bunch of halachas. Kate said.
Just say, what's the logic here?
We're taking the smaller one, and we made it. It has like this. The lower part, the bottom of the T, we're looking at the whole thing as if it's considered a Pesach.
I understand, but what's the logic of looking at it that way? This is rabbinic, so there must have been some logical or whatever
Right.
the reason is. What is the reason?
Right. I'm not sure why. It ends up like a one-way valve. That when you look at it from one perspective, this is what it looks like.
Like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I should do that also. Yeah. Yeah. It's like this. So when you look at it from the book's perspective up here, so this is just the doorway. Anything that's going on in here is really going on in the up here, and anything that's going on in here, anything that's going on up here doesn't mean it's going on in the doorway. So the people in the smaller one are going to be losing out sometimes. It depends. We'll see. Depends which way it's working. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much. You just walk across. So Kate said, what's the case? Gefanim Gedela. There's halacha you can't plant grain in a vineyard. So, if you, in 3 brackets. Okay. Yesterday's Rambam, one parak was Eiruvin, you notice that. The Uka Shibachas. So, if you plant in the vines, you plant them in the larger part. Asal Israel, you can't plant any grain in the smaller one. Why? Because it's as if you're planting in the vineyard. Anything that goes on in the smaller one is as if it's going on in the larger one. Now, ve'im zara, let's say you did plant grain in the smaller part. Because Ryan Asurim, this is where it gets very interesting. The grain is asur. Why? Because the grain grew in a vineyard. But what about the vines? Did they grow in a field? Did they grow with the gefanim mutarim? But the vines are still mutter. Because from the vine's perspective, the vines, there's a doorway. There's a fence that's blocking. They have the 2 sides. So even though it was planted in front of the entrance of the doorway, not against the walls of the doorway, still consider that it's there. Rashi points out. Okay, let's go a drop further. Gefana Biktana. Let's say you planted the vines in the smaller area. So now it's as if I planted those vines in the bigger one. That should be a problem. Turns out, Mutal Israel Segdaila, you're allowed to plant in the big one grain. Why? Because when I'm planting in the larger one, I have a wall. I'm always allowed to plant next to a wall. And no, in the big one, I'm always allowed to plant next to the wall. In other words, here's the rule: if there's
Rabbi,
no walls,
I'm sorry. We're getting such, at least I'm hearing Moshe and echoing. I mean, can you put your headset on?
yeah.
I don't know if anybody else, but it's like I'm hearing more than one person. Thank you. Sorry, Moshe.
1 second. Change the headset. Okay, someone say something. Just to see if I hear you through my headset. Dr. Stein.
Much better.
Can you hear
Much
me?
better.
So,
Okay, perfect.
Rabbi Smith, let's take a look at the picture behind Rennie. Rennie, could you duck your head or move to the left or the right for a moment? Yeah, there you go.
Just 1 second.
So far what we've said is the lower part of that picture is the Gedola and the upper part is the Katana. And there's an imaginary wall or that's a doorway between
Right.
each.
Yeah. So it's a doorway. It's a one-way door.
My question is still, I get the picture. What's the logic?
Okay. So one thing is clear, that the lower part here, we'll do it like this. The lower part, we'll do it the other way. to match the picture. The lower part has on the side here, it has a wall, has a fence. So it makes that this part is considered a doorway. So I can always plant grain in the lower part, even if there's vines growing here, because I planted it next to the fence. Now let's say I planted it right here. It's okay. It's still next to the fence. That's even if it's in the doorway, it's still acceptable because there's a fence here. The problem is if the vines are planted in the lower part, then I can't plant my grain here because I'm not planting it next to the fence. From this perspective, everything that's going on here is going on is really taking, it's as if this is here. If I do something here in the small one, it's as if I did it here. If I do something here, it's not as if I did it here because of that that fence. That's goes partially.
Thank you, Rennie. Please come back.
Okay, so there's a slight problem. There's a slight problem. You look at this again, what's happening here? There's vines that are being planted in the smaller one, and the grain you want to plant in the bigger one, and we're saying that it's totally mutter. It's one problem. I understand the grains are mutter because there's a fence and you are allowed to do that. But the vines will continue to grow. And when the vines continue to grow, it's considered as if the vines are growing with the grain. So you're right. When I planted them first, it was fine. Now you're planting this, it's fine. But as the vines continue to grow, there's a problem. So Rashi says, actually, it's not a problem because this is only a knas that we have, that we make it usser. Really, it's not usser unless it's canvas faluf. There are other types of vegetation. Sharzraim, other types of, maybe it's not grain, maybe it's other vegetables or something. So when he planted the vines, it was allowed. When he planted the other vegetation, it's allowed. So no one did anything wrong that we should make a knas. That's how Rashi said. Okay, let's go to the next case. Isha bigdaila v'get biktana. The way a woman is divorced is that they hand her the document, they give her the get. Now, it doesn't have to go directly into her hand, it can go into her property. If she owns the property, then that would work as long as she's standing in it. So let's say she's standing in the larger courtyard. And they put the husband puts the get in the smaller courtyard. So is she standing in the smaller one as well? So it says v'get biktana, in the both properties belong to her, miskareshes. It's considered as if she's standing in the smaller one as well, because the smaller one is buttled to the, it's like the doorway, which is good.
That's quarter, not roof. It's just because it's her property.
Or let's say it's the roofs, it's her property also. Now let's go the other way. Isha biktana. Let's say the woman is in the smaller one, and we get bigdaila, and you put the get into the larger one. We don't say that the woman gets drawn into the larger one. We want to draw the get somewhere. You don't draw the woman somewhere. The woman doesn't get pulled. The get gets pulled. So if the get is in the larger one, it doesn't get pulled to the smaller one. So Eina Miskaresha, she's not divorced. Okay. Tzibur bigdaila shliach tzibur biktana. This is an interesting story. Let's say you're making an outdoor minyan. And you have the congregation, 9 people, let's say, or even if it's not 9 people, if it's more than that. But the shliach tzibur is in the ketana. So how does this work? Anything that takes place in the smaller one is as if it takes place in the larger one. Sounds good. But the other way, tzibur b'ketana, if everyone is somehow, for some reason, squeezed into the smaller one, the shliach tzibur b'gedaila, and he's, the big chazan is in the large area. So, because you don't pull the community to the shliach tzibur, you can only pull the smaller one to the bigger one. Yeah.
You can't down in the street.
They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be in separate rooms.
Oh.
The street is
Also,
So here it's like separate rooms because you have that the front. Pulls the chazan, yeah. It pulls the chazan to them. We had a complication in the Chabad house in Rhode Island. My father was there. It was a house, Chabad house. It was a real house, and there were like 3 rooms that they took down the doors or whatever. But whenever anyone would mention it to the shliach there, to Rabbi Lau, he said, "I can't hear this." It was a complication, and if the minyan was divided up by the different rooms, so
They don't play off doors and try to down the wall.
the problem is it's called ptzimen. There's protrusions. They didn't take down the sides that used to be the wall.
The walls were taken in.
The center was taken down, but the sides were still there.
It's light.
Over here, you don't see that.
Out there.
The doors were open.
The doors were open up, but there's a wall on both sides.
So if the shliach tzibur would be out there, let's say the doors are open, the shliach tzibur is out there, and the 9 people are in here, then it would be fine.
But vice versa.
But vice versa would be a problem. Yeah, if you look in Kids Shulchan Aruch, I think it actually has this discussion. Apparently, it was common. Okay, that was the shliach tzibur part, but we do the same thing with the minyan part. Tzibur tisha b'gdola v'yachid b'ktana mitztarfen. If there's a yachid in the katana, then it's fine, because he gets drawn into the larger one. Tisha b'ktana v'yachid b'gdola. But if it's the other way, then ein mitztarfen. Okay, now there's another case. Tzaya b'gdola aslikar skriyashma b'ktana. Let's say this could happen with a diaper or something. You're not allowed to recite Shema if there's human feces and then are exposed. So, Tzaya b'gdola. If in the larger room there's tzaya, feces there. Aslikar skriya Shema b'ktana. You can't recite the Shema in the smaller one, because when you're in the smaller one, you don't have a mechitza that's blocking you. However, tzaya b'ktana, then mutlek skriya Shema b'gdola, then you have a mechitza. So this is getting played with. There's different ways of looking at it, and each one has like a little twist on it. So, okay, Amalu Abaya. See, Abaya says to all of them, this is where he gets started. He says, Imkain Matzina Mechitza. This is the Yasvi V'Ka'amri. They're all saying Shema Mina.
So they came to
Yeah.
him saying, this is what we resolved.
Yeah, they're discussing this. This is their, oh, look what's going to come out from all of this. We have a bunch of different cases. Abaya's comment on this is Imkain Matzina Mechitza Le'eser. Comes out, usually in all of Hilchas Eiruvin, whenever you make a wall, you're doing better. If there's a wall there, oh, it's much better. It's probably mutter now. Now it comes out that if there's a wall, things are getting worse. He says, why? Shalmali ein mechitza, because if there was no wall here, marchik dalet amis v'zereya v'lo hashta asura. Go back to the Kalayan case. We said that if you plant anywhere in the katana, if you plant the grain or the vegetation in the katana, it's always going to be usher, because you have vines in the gedola. Now that's not accurate. If you would have, let's say it would be all the same size, or in the gedola itself, let's say, all I needed to do was to be marchik dalet amas. I distance 4 amas and I can plant grain. Now you're telling me, I don't care how many amas you distance, you can't have it. Why? And it's all because I have those pitzimen, that partial wall that's there makes the whole katana as if it's in the gedola. It's making it worse. And here I have a wall that's making it worse. If there was no wall, it would be mutter. This is a surprising thing. Okay, so Reb Zeir starts. Reb Zeir is going to say something. Rava, that's interesting. Before it was Yosef Rabbah. No, it's probably Rava. Usually, even though Rabbah and Reb Zeir usually go to, no, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. It wouldn't put Rava before Reb Zeir. Yosef Rava Reb Zeir. It's Rabbah Reb Zeir, but we're going to have Rava is going to come in over here as well, and yeah. Amalei Reb Zeir la Abaya. Reb Zeir says to Abaya, blame Matzina Mechitza D'Isser. This is the first time you're seeing that a mechitza makes things worse. We have it in other places. You shouldn't be so surprised. But Tanan, we have a Mishnah like this. Chatza gedayla shenifetza l'ktana. A large courtyard that's open to a smaller courtyard. Gedayla muteres l'ktana asura mipnei shekifescha shel gedayla. It's our Mishnah. If I have a large courtyard that's open to the smaller one, so I can carry in the larger one because it has walls. However, I can't carry in the smaller one because it's open entirely to the Gedayla. It's considered the entranceway of the Gedayla.
So he made imaginary walls from the katana into the gedela.
So what he's doing is like this. Imagine I have a T. Okay, I have the T over here, right? So I said I can carry in the Gedayla, but I can't carry in the katana. So let's say I take what I do to the Gedayla now is I add walls to the Gedayla. Imagine walls, yeah, straight through. So now as I make walls straight up here. Yeah, if you look in the Rashi. So that way, there are no gifufin. There is no extra area in the Gedayla. I make extra walls here. So if I make extra walls, so then everything becomes answer because it's open directly. So you see, Amalei, so Abaya says to him, I know you're adding extra walls, but that's not your accomplishment. But your accomplishment is Hasam Siluk Mechitasu. You're adding extra walls, but you're really removing the walls. I know you're adding a wall, but the point of what you're accomplishing is that you're removing the walls that you had before.
The real.
You're removing the previous walls, which had gifufin. So you're not adding a wall, you're taking away a wall. It looks like you're adding a wall because that's what you did, but your accomplishment is removing a wall. Over here, by the Kilayim, if I would actually even remove those walls, it would be more mutter. Even if I would extend the katana, that's what we're saying, we extend the katana. Over here also, if I'd extend the katana, it would be asa. But he's not saying that. Extending the katana is also removing the walls. What Abai is trying to say is that if I would plant it in the Gedayla itself, it would be mutter. And I plant it in the katana, it becomes asa. Okay. Amalei Rava Abaya. Now Rava says to Abaya. You never find that a wall makes things worse. It makes it more prohibited. But Itmar, a case like this. I can't figure out the picture in Rashi, at least in my old Rashi. In the newer one, I think it was clear. If you have an old Gemara, I don't know what Rashi's the artist is trying to do over there. What do you have? You probably have a new Gemara. Yeah. What it's supposed to look like is that I have an achsadra is normally a roof with an open area underneath. Now it could be open entirely. It could be that it's closed on two sides. So here I put schach on top of an achsadra, and it's open from the front to the back. It's open in the front to the back, but there's two walls there. So what I do is I put ptzimen, little posts on the side within 3 tvachim to make it as if it's closed off, 3 walls. So,
Rabbi,
yeah.
the picture behind me, I think, shows it well. I took that from the new Gemara.
So that's the petzimen. Okay. I see. At the end, you have the petzimen. So that's considered like it's closed off. That's considered like the third wall is closed off. So what Rav is suggesting is like this: Vilu hishve petzimah psula. Now here you have to use your imagination. Hishve petzimah means that if you extend the entire wall, you thicken the wall to the extent that the petzimen, the protrusions, aren't protruding anymore. Because you thicken the wall with insulation or whatever you did. So now it's just, it's clearly you walk straight through. So then it's psula. You see, if you add a wall, it makes it worse. Amalei Abaya tells him the same part. He says, Lididi, he says, according to me, I don't have this problem. Anyway, it's kshera. I hold, Abaya says, I have a different argument with Rava about this. sort of like, let's not get into this, but basically, Abaya holds pitikr yerd v'seisim, that he says that usually when you have a chsaj, you always have a lip at the end of along the side of the roof that we can view it as if it extends downward. Pitikr, the mouth of the roof, Yered, continues downwards, v'seisim, and closes it up. But l'didach, you don't hold of that. Okay. Yeah, anyways, not really adding a wall. What you're doing is filuk mechitza. You're removing the pitzim and you're removing the wall. You're making the wall like as if it doesn't exist. You're not adding an extra wall. You're removing the pitzim, which was a wall. Amalei Rabba bar Rav Chanan la'Abaya. Okay, so now Rabba bar Rav Chanan pipes up. We had Rava and Rab Zera. Now it's the third one. Rabba bar Rav Chanan. I don't know if it's Rabba or Rava. You never find that a wall makes it worse. But Tanya, but we have a brisa. I have a house that half of it has a roof and half doesn't have a roof. So gefanim kan, if I have vines that are underneath the roof. So mutal izreya kan, you're allowed to plant under the open area. Ve'ilu hishves kiruyev, and the reason why I'm allowed to plant under that area is because it's considered like that the roof comes down, like Abaya said, the roof comes down and closes it off. But let's say I continue the roof and I add more roofing and I finish the whole roof. So then the fact that you finish the roof, hishves kiruyev, then it's going to be aser. You see that mechitza that you put up, it's a flat mechitza, it's a roof, you're making it worse. Now you can't plant over there. It's not considered a separate area. That wall makes it, that new roof makes it like as if it's all the same area, and it makes it worse.
This would be an imaginary wall.
No, now we're talking about you're planting underneath the roof. So I wanted to plant, here's the roof, this is no roof. So here's the gefanim under, and now here I want to plant grain, which is no problem because it's considered like there's a wall that's traveling down. And Shmuel had a wall that was underneath the house that was continuing up. This is a pitikra. The edge of the roof travels down. Pitikra yard b'seisim. But now let's say it's the reverse. Let's say I now add roofing all over the grain area. It becomes asa. I don't have a pitikra. There is no lip there. It's closed off. So Amalei Abaya says him the same thing. Hasam siluk mechitzasi. It's not that you're adding a wall. You're removing the wall that used to be there. There used to be a pitikra. You removed it. Shalachli Rava la'Abaya biyad Rav Shmaya bar Zira. Now Rava sends to Abaya a message, another challenge, and he sends it but through Rav Shmaya bar Zira. We don't find that there's ever a mechitza that makes it worse. But Tanya, there's a brisa like this. Okay. There's, when it comes to kalayim, it's possible that a wall can make it worse. It's possible it can make it better. Let's say there's the vineyard, the grapes, the vines are planted right next to the foundation of the wall. I can go directly to the other side of the wall and I can plant the grain. If there wouldn't have been a wall there, then I would have needed a distance of 4 amas in between the vines and the grain. Now I can plant directly one, mamish right next to it, just on both sides of the wall. This is where a wall makes it better, makes it more lenient. And how is it that it's more strict? Let's say I have a vineyard. Yeah, I don't know if you see the picture. This is my vineyard all inside the decoration, the design. And here's my wall. And in between the vineyard and the wall of the vineyard, is 11 amas. So in other words, I distance my vines from the wall 11 amas. Now, normally I'm allowed to plant when I separate 4 amas, I'm allowed to plant. The problem is over here in these 11 amas, because there's a wall there, I can't plant because the wall itself, I can't plant next to the wall. And 4 amas, I need to distance. And if I don't plant an area of 4 amas, it's considered like it's bottle to the vineyard. So I need to have a full 4 amas also to be able to, I really need 8 amas. So 12 would be good, but 11 is not good. So where's my problem over here? The problem is so 3 times 4 would be 12, but the problem is it's only 11. So why do I have a problem here? Because of the wall. So the wall makes it worse. Because if there was no wall there, you would only need 4 amas. Okay. Abai responds. I'm not sure what he's gaining by this response, but he responds like this. He says, why didn't you ask me a better question from the Mishnah? The Mishnah is going to say basically the same thing. But in the end, he's going to give an answer that it seems like he could have answered from the Brisa itself. I don't know if he needed the Mishnah to do this, but he says, once you're asking, ask a better question.
I was going to say that.
The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Karachas akerem. Karachas is a bald spot. It means an empty area in the vineyard. You planted the vines all around, but you left the center empty. So Beishamai says that if you want to plant grain in the center, you need 24 amas empty, 24 amas by 24 amas. Basil says you only need 16 amas. Now the logic for Beishamai Basil is that Basil's shita is that I need 4 amas on each side. That gives me 8 amas. And then we said that we needed that the area that you're planting should be an area of 4 amas as well. Otherwise, it's considered bottle. So I need really 4 amas that's considered that it's separated from this side, and I need 4 amas that's separated from that side. Otherwise, if it's less than that, then I'll say that it's really divided in half, and it's not and it's bottle to either side. So I need a full 8 amas in the center, which is 16 amas. And Beishamai holds that an area of planting, I think, needs to be 8 amas.
Oh, really?
So then I need 16 amas plus another 8 amas of working area. In other words, I need 4 amas clear of the vineyard, right outside the vineyard, to be able to bring in the tools and equipment to be able to plow it's not to plow to plant, but I need to make holes in the ground to be able to let the water or whatever seep in for the nutrition of the roots. Machal akerem. Machal is a circle that goes around the vineyard. Right? Machal is like a dance in Tillim. Right? It's a circle. The hara.
So what's
It's a circle that goes around the vineyard. So as opposed to karachas, which is the circle in the center of a bald spot in the center, this is a bald spot around the side. You need 18 amas. I'm sorry, you need 16 amas. Basil says you need 12. So why does Beishamai hold you need 16? Well, 4 for the wall. He said you can't do any work against the wall because when you soften the dirt against the wall can collapse. So you always leave the dirt near the wall hard. You don't want to start planting right there. So you need 4 amas away from the wall. So 4 amas away from the wall, then Beishamai says that an area itself of planting needs to be 8 amas. I have 8 amas. Then I have another 4 amas that needs to be clear by the vineyard, so that's 16. And Basil says it's only 12. 4 for the wall, 4 for the vineyard, and then in the center I need an area of 4 amas of planting. What is a karachas akerem? The Mishnah goes on, it says kerem shecharav emtziisai, that the middle of it got destroyed. The main sham says ayin amali of his elisham. That's Basil's shita. If you don't have 16 amas, then you can't plant there. Hayusham Tesayan Aman, nice like the Abadasiv is Maisa. You just give the area of what it takes to work, which is on both sides, 4 amos for both sides, a total of 8. And then I can plant in the center 2 lots, two spots of 4 amos each. Is a machala kerem? What is the machala kerem? The area that's surrounding. Beina kerem together between the vineyard and the fence. If you don't have 12 amos, you can't put the you can't plant there. But if you do have the 12 amos, then nice and like they have a dust of myself. So that's what we have. You plant, and you can plant the rest. So Abaya tells to, I guess, Rav Shmaya Bar Zeira, why he asked to Rava if the message is getting back. He says, why you ask me from the Brisa? Ask from the Mishnah. So Allah Hasam Lav Haina time. Why over there didn't you ask the Kol Dal Rams Lagabe Kerem Avaidas Kerem? Because it's not that the wall is making it worse. There's a reason why I can't plant next to a wall. It's not that a wall makes it worse. I can't plant 4 amos next to the wall, next to the vineyard, because that's where you need the area to work the vineyard. Lagabe Geder, but I can't plant next to the fence. Because no one plants there. Safkuri Mafkalu. That area is like buttled to the fence. It's hefker to the fence, so that's not counted. The Beni, and in the center, Yekadalit Chashiban. If I have an area of 4 amos, then good. Chashiban. If not, then it's not Chashiv. So the same way that over there it was very clear that I need 12 amos to be able to plant. Over here, if it's 11 amos, it's not good. So it's that's the same reason, because of the wall. It's not that there's a strictness of a wall. It's that there is it's not that a wall makes it worse. It's that if there's a wall there, then I don't have that area. It could have been a vineyard also that was there. I don't have. It's just that the area doesn't exist. Right. Okay, that's his response. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. It says Gimel Karfifa is Zebetzadza. There's a little bit of an introduction that we need here. What happens is, if someone's making a fence around an area when he's traveling, so if there's a rabbim there, then they can make a very large area. And what they're doing is they're putting sticks in the ground, and they're doing a shesi b'la. It's not a real fence, it's just sticks in the ground. If they would do a shesi v'erev, sticks in the ground with strings around it, then that would be more lenient. But over here, they're just doing it one going vertically. They're doing it just for Shabbos. It's a caravan that's traveling, let's say. So if there's a rabbim there, then they can do however much area they need. But if it's a yachid, then they can only do up to a base of Zion. So now we have 3 karfifes. The 2 outer ones, they made their area migufafim. That means wider. So the 2 outer ones are wide, and the center one is like this. All right, the center one is not migufafim. It doesn't have the center one. This is like an H. All right, the outer ones are longer, are wider, and the middle one is thinner. Okay, it's a continuation of what we were discussing before. I have to view this. And the middle one is not megufaf. Megufaf means it doesn't have any protrusions that are going into it. It's open flush entirely. It's open entirely to the to both sides. V'yachid b'zeh. You have to add in v'yachid b'zeh. There's one person that's living in each one. Now, the question is, are they all living together? If they're all living together, then I don't care the size of this. It's always going to be mutter, because 3 people is the rabbim, and they can use this area. But if they're divided up, which it seems like they're divided up, because the 2 outer ones are megufafim, it seems like it's enclosed. We say nasike shayara. V'naislam kol tzarcha. We say that it's all considered one dwelling area. Remember what we said, that the middle one, Well, what we're saying is that even if the area is larger than base asayim for each one, it's still acceptable because they have a rabbim there. In other words, it's a discussion on the size of the area that you can enclose. Very nice. So what we said before is that the middle area, you want to turn off the thing? Yes, you shut up.
It's all yours. We'll do this.
Yeah, but turn off the sound because oh, yeah, okay. So the middle area, we said that the Yure Gedaila is how does this work? And say the Yure Gedaila is Bekatan.
Because the cotton is in there, so it's pulled into the Gedaila.
The Yure Gedaila is Bekatan. The Yure Gedaila is Bekatan. It's as if everyone's living in the center one, because that's like an entranceway of both of them. So it's as if they're all in the center one, which means that there's three people there, which makes it a rabbin, which allows for a larger area to be enclosed in this weak sort of mechitza. Okay, let's do it the other way. Skip the word vade. The Bach takes it out. Let's say the middle one is the large one and the two outer ones are smaller. So if you look in Rashi, Rashi's picture is pretty clear. The upper one is the two outer ones from Megufaf. That means they're all considered combined. What if the middle one is Megufaf and the outer one isn't? The Yachid B'Zeh, Yachid B'Zeh, Yachid B'Zeh. And then I have one person living in each one. Is it considered that they're all living together? It says, Ein Naislam Ella Base Sheish. You only give them an area of 6 sa. That means 2 sa each. There's 3 people, and each one only gets a base sasayim. That means 2 sa. So, Ibailahu, now they have a question. If the middle one is megufaf, the middle one is the larger one. And we said that it's considered that each one is independent, each one is separate. But let's say there's 2 people in the center. So what we would like to do is put the 2 people to one side, or put one person in the center, and then it would make everything permissible. So it goes like this. What's the din? This is the question. If they go to one side, then there's 3 people there. In other words, because one side is considered a doorway, the other side is also considered a doorway. But can I go to both sides? So then there's 3 people. If I go to this side, then there's 3 people, which makes everything permissible. So either way I go, it's going to be permissible. Or maybe I can't do that. Maybe I have to divide the 2 in the center in half. And I have to put one person each side. It's only 2 and 2. So then it's usher. And if you do that, you divide the center and it doesn't work. So then let's do it the other way. Let's do that for some reason in the smaller areas, there's 2 people living. And there's 1 person living in the larger area. For some reason, it doesn't get divided evenly like that. So over here, we can do it different. If it goes to one side, then for sure there's tlasa. Automatically there's 3. You can't divide the center. There's only 1 person there. And if he goes to the other side, then there's 3 people, which should make everything mutter. Or maybe we say that we have to do only one side. He can only go to one side. And then since we don't know which side he's going to, then everything's usher. Because which side does he go to? You can't say that they're both mutter. But Hilchas Abayin Lakula. Gemara concludes over here that everything is lenient. All of these questions, we take the lenient view. Okay, we'll leave it here. Shakayach, everyone.